Hello everyone, we're on Chapter 3, Lesson 4 is page 201 in your math books. After scanning the lessons and some real-world scenarios which we'll have to multiply decimals by decimals, one of them we can say to find distance given rate and time. Another real-world scenario is to find the amount of protein in a serving of cereal. So we're going back to the real world link. This is planets. The table shows the weight of a 1 pound object on each planet. So this is how much a 1 pound object will be. So a 1 pound object on Mercury would be 3/10, Venus 9/10, Earth is 1 pound, Mars 3/10, Jupiter 2 3/10, Saturn 1, Uranus it would be 8/10, and Neptune is 1 1/10. Number 1, a 5/10 pound object weighs 1/2 as much as a 1 pound object. If a cheeseburger weighs a 1/2 pound on Earth, what will it weigh in Jupiter? That was a little wordy. Pretty much what the question is asking is if it weighs 2 3/10 on Jupiter and it's a half, so we're going to multiply that by 5/10. If we do it over here. So it's actually going to be the same method as yesterday. We have one number to the right of the decimal, and then on the bottom, we also have another number to the right of the decimal. So after multiplying this out, since we have two numbers to the right of the decimal, we're going to make two loops, and we're going to come up with the answer of 1 1/1500th pounds. Number 2, what would a barbell that weighs 5 pounds on Earth weigh on Jupiter? So we have a barbell that is 5 pounds, and Jupiter's gravity is 2 3/10. So we're going to multiply those together. So 15, 10, 11. So we have one number to the right of the decimal, so that means we're going to make one loop for the decimal place. We get 11.5 pounds. Number 3, using the results from exercise 1 and 2 to find 500th times 2 and 3 pounds. Explain your answer. So, based on this information, to find 500th, we can move the decimal three places from the right. So since we see the pattern that we used 5/10 and we used 5, and we see the pattern of 1, 1, 5. So we have 1, 1, 5. We're going to move the decimal place 3 times from the right. So we get 1, 1, 5. So that's the way of explaining it in words. The other way would just be to multiply and to get our answer. So we're going to move on. So this is when multiplying a decimal by a decimal, multiply as with a whole number. To place a decimal, find the sum of the number of decimal places in each factor. The product has the same number of decimal places. So what's that saying is just add how many numbers you have to the right of the decimal. Just kind of like what we've been doing this whole time. So we're going to multiply this. So 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 3 is 18. And then if we do 0, 0 times everything's 0. So we really don't need anything on the bottom. So we count. We have 1, 2, 3 numbers to the right of the decimal. So we're going to move this 1, 2, 3. And the decimal place is going to be right here. So we get an answer of 1800th, or you can also write it without that last 0. They are both equivalent. So example 2, we have 112 thousandths times 7 and 2 tenths. So 112 thousandths, if we estimate that, is that closer to 1 or 0? We're going to say it's closer to 0. 7, so 7 times 0 is 0, so our answer should be pretty close to 0. So we have 112 tenths has 3 decimal places. 7 and 2 tenths has 1 decimal place. So the product will have 1 plus 3 or 4 decimal places. Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers to the right of the decimal. So you have 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 1 is 7. Plus 1 is 8. 7 times 1 is 7. So we have 4, 6, 10, 8. And then we need 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to have a decimal right here, and then we can just fill in the last as 0. So the product is 8064. So it's 10 thousandths place. And we check for reasonableness. Is that close to 0? Yes. So we're going to check that and say that is correct. So now that we've gone over some of the examples, go ahead and try the got it and pause the video. So after doing the got it, your answer should look like mine. One thing you can do is you can always add zeros in front of the decimal place. So it's still going to be the same answer. One thing I would like to point out is in C, when you move the decimal place 4 times in the answer, so 1, 2, 3, 4, when you add the decimal place, there's still one more loop with no number. So when that happens, you're going to go ahead and annex a 0 right in between the decimal and the hundredths place. Okay, so example 3 says find 1 4/10 times 67 thousandths. So after multiplying, and this is actually what I was talking about in C, so we'll get some practice here. So times 1 4/10, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 digits to the right of the decimal, so we're going to go ahead and multiply. 4 times 7 is 28, 4 times 6 is 24, plus 2 is 26, 4 times 0 is 0, and then 2, and then I'm going to add a little placeholder. 1 times 7 is 7, 1 times 6 is 6. So we have 8, it's going to be 13, and that's going to be 9. And since we have 4 numbers to the right of the 0, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, for loops. And I'm going to have a decimal place right here. And since we still have a loop with nothing in it, we're going to go ahead and add a 0. We're annexing a 0 to get 938 10,000ths. So in example 3, it says the product will have how many decimal places? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to have 5 of those. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 4 is 12. Plus 1 is 13. And then I always like adding a placeholder. It helps me out. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. Plus 2 is 22. So it's going to be 5, 8, 3, 2. And we have to move this decimal place 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the decimal place here, we can add a 0 here and annex a 0 here. So we're going to check by multiplying with real numbers. So if we multiply with real numbers, we're going to get the same thing. So it's going to be 5, 8, 3, 2. It says move the decimal to the 5 places to the left. What is that number? It's going to be the same one as before. 3, 8, 5. Is it the same answer? Yes, it is. Also, 3, 4, 5. Get a little decimal and the 0. So now that you got in practice, go ahead and pause the video and do D, E, and F. So after doing the got it's, your answers should look like mine. I can add some zeros in front of these decimal places. So yeah, pretty simple. This is very similar to yesterday's lesson, and except for just having more decimal places. So number 5, a certain car can travel 28 and 4/500 miles with 1 gallon of gasoline. The gasoline tank can hold 11.5 gallons. How many miles can this car travel on a full tank of gas? Justify your answer. So if it can go 28 and 4/500 with 1 gallon, and we can hold 11.5 gallons, so we can multiply those answers together because we have to do 28 and 4/500 11.5 times. So that's why we're going to multiply. So 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 4 is 22. 5 times 8 is 40. Plus 2 is 42. 5 times 2 is 10, and then 14. And then since we're just multiplying 1, I can just do 5, 4, 8, 2, and then we have another one. So 5, 4, 8, 2. And after I add all of these together, it's going to be 1. It's going to be 17. And 12, 3. We have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Very important. This is a word problem. So what do we need? Units. So how many miles can this car travel on a full tank of gas? Since we're working with miles, we're going to say 327 and 1/75,000th miles. And that's the end of the lesson.